Okay, good evening. Welcome to a special Math for Kids. Number?
81.
81. Okay, today we're going to look at one problem and then maybe a second problem if we have time. Here's the problem. You have a long piece of rope. How many cuts do you need to make to cut it into 5 pieces? And you're not allowed to twist the rope around or anything like that. It's just going to lay there and you have to make a number of cuts. So this is kind of an interesting problem, right?
Yeah.
So how should you approach problems like this?
Make a simpler problem.
Okay, you can make a simpler problem. What else is another really helpful technique that you can do on problems like this so you don't make a mistake?
You can actually use rope.
You could actually get a rope, but a lot of times you don't have rope laying around. So instead of getting a rope, you can, I'll give you a hint. It begins with draw a.
Draw a picture.
Draw a picture. All right, so you want to draw a picture for this?
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Let's draw a picture. Dun da 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 da. And we have orange Play-Doh instead of rope. Okay? And so we're going to try to cut this into 5 pieces, and we're going to see. We're going to try to make a simpler problem. What would the simplest problem be?
You have a long piece of rope. How many cuts do you need to make it into one slice?
Okay, into 1 piece of rope.
Yeah, you need to make
How many cuts do you need to cut this into 1 piece of rope?
0 cuts.
0 cuts. Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, how many cuts do you need to cut it into 2 pieces of rope?
1 cut.
Okay, let's see it.
Shink.
Good job. That's 2 pieces of rope. Okay. Now, our actual problem, so wait, 0 cuts, cut it into 1 piece. 1 cut it into 2 pieces. How many cuts do you think we're going to need to cut it into 3 pieces?
2 cuts.
Okay, so make that second cut. Okay, good job. All right. Now our actual problem was cutting it into how many pieces?
5.
Okay, we have 3 pieces with 2 cuts. So how many more cuts do you think we need to make? Definitely 1 more, because that's going to give us
4.
4 pieces. Okay. And then
5.
5 pieces. So how many cuts did we need to cut the rope into 5 pieces?
4.
4. Okay.
And our math knife.
We cut with the math knife. Awesome. Okay, so that's actually a really interesting problem. How many cuts do you need to cut a piece of rope or bread or, I don't know, cut a log? How many cuts do you need to cut into, what would the answer been if we were going to try to cut into 10 pieces?
9.
9 cuts. How about if we were going to cut into 20 pieces?
19.
Why is it always 1 less?
Because for the first cut you make, you get 2.
And then what about for the cuts after that? Every time you make a cut, how many more pieces do you get?
1 more piece.
1 more piece, right. Okay, good job. All right. So does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, you want to go for a little bit harder problem now?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let me turn the camera off for a second. Okay, so here's the next problem. So here, instead of having a long piece of rope, you have a big piece of paper. And the question is, what is the largest amount of pieces you can cut that paper into using just 3 cuts? Okay, do you understand that problem?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, instead of using some Play-Doh, we're just going to draw cuts. And we're going to pretend our little whiteboard here is the piece of paper, okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry.
There's a sound.
Okay, here we go. All right, so I want you to pretend the whiteboard is the paper and draw a line that's going to represent your first cut. Okay, so there's a good first cut. So, like the first problem we took a look at, how many pieces of paper did we cut it into with 1 cut?
2 pieces.
2 pieces. Okay. All right. Now make your second cut, and we'll try to keep track here. All right. So how many pieces do we have now with 2 cuts?
4 pieces.
Oh, that's interesting. So with the rope, after 1 cut, we had 2 pieces, so that was the same. But now, after 2 cuts, we actually have 4 pieces. Now that's pretty interesting. Now we have to be kind of careful with this 3rd cut, because we're going to try to make the most number of pieces that we can possibly make. So why don't you Why don't you take, sorry, just a little sick. Why don't you take a guess as to where to make another cut to get as many pieces as possible? Go ahead. Interesting. Okay, now why don't you number all the pieces from, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoa! So the pattern went, and this time it went 2, 4, and then with 3 cuts we got 7. So a couple of things. How could we know that's the maximum? How do we know we can't cut somewhere and get more than that?
Because you can only cut through 3. You've cut through 3 of them.
Okay, you cut through 3 of the spaces. That's a good way of thinking about it. You can only cross over each line once. You crossed over the line each one of your prior cuts once. So, now a challenge question would be what's the maximum number of spaces you can make with 4 cuts? It's actually a pretty interesting pattern that continues here. But we're not gonna do that now. That's just kind of a challenge problem for at home. And you know what you can do? What you can even do after this? Instead of having a flat piece of paper, you can have a space. Like a big cube, and you can start trying to slice the cube into bits. So that's kind of fun. All right, so that's a good problem for tonight. Good job.